He stood outside the glass door at 11:47 on a Wednesday night, 67 years old, navy blue uniform, a mop in one hand. Through the glass he could see a walnut desk, family photos on the shelf behind it. One of them had his face in it, younger, holding a baby girl. The office belonged to a billionaire. The billionaire was his daughter. She had not called him in 7 months. She did not know he worked here. Every night for 3 years he had cleaned this floor, emptied her trash, straightened her books, wiped the coffee ring from the same spot on her desk. And every night he stood in front of this door. Not once did he knock, because if he opened it, she would tell him to go home, and he was not ready to leave. Some distances are not measured in miles. Some are measured in the words no one says. He pushed the cart past his daughter's office every night for 3 years. Not once did he knock Raymond Brennan, 67 years old, navy blue uniform, name badge on his chest that read Raymond B., no last name. He stopped in front of a glass door, the CEO's office, walnut desk, family photos lined up on the shelf behind it. He looked through the glass at one of those photos. He was in it younger, holding a baby girl, his wife Claire beside him, smiling. Both of them smiling, like they'd just won something nobody could take away. Sometimes he would rest his hand on the door handle, feel the cool metal under his palm, wonder what would happen if he pushed. If she was working late and looked up and saw him standing there in this uniform. If recognition would cross her face before confusion, before the question he could not answer. Why didn't you just call? But he never pushed, because the not knowing was easier than the knowing. Because as long as he stood on this side of the glass, he could imagine she might understand, might even be glad. And imagination was all he had left after 7 months of silence. He did not open the door. Victoria Brennan was 42 years old, CEO and co-founder of Brennan and Cross Capital, a real estate investment firm headquartered on the 41st floor of the building that carried her name. Net worth $1.3 billion. Forbes 400. Her signature was on contracts that moved entire city blocks from one owner to another. Her days began at 6:30 in the morning, and they did not pause. A strategy meeting at 7:15, a portfolio review at 8:30, a conference call with investors in London at 9, a lunch meeting downtown at noon, a second call with a development partner in Dallas at 2, a site visit in Midtown at 4, a dinner with the board at 7, emails in the back seat of her car on the way home at 9:30. Every day built the same way, every hour accounted for, every minute assigned to something that produced a return. She earned $4.9 million a year before bonuses. She lived in a penthouse in Buckhead that cost $3.3 million. It had a view of the city skyline that she saw for approximately 11 minutes each morning while drinking coffee and reviewing her calendar. She drove a Porsche Taycan. Charcoal. She had chosen the color in under 30 seconds during a phone call between 2 other phone calls. She was not a bad person. That is worth saying clearly, because what follows might make it easy to think otherwise. She donated to 3 foundations. She funded a scholarship program at Spelman College. She once spent 45 minutes on the phone with a young entrepreneur she had never met, because someone on her team said the kid reminded them of Tori at 23. She could be generous. She could be kind. She simply could not be still. That particular Tuesday evening, she left the office at 9:14. She walked through the lobby, nodded once at the security guard behind the front desk, a man whose name she had learned, only because he wore it on a lanyard around his neck. As Tori pushed through the revolving door, the night cleaning crew was coming in through the service entrance on the east side of the building. 14 people. They would start at 10 and finish at 6 in the morning. 8 hours, 41 floors. Bathrooms and conference rooms and executive offices and kitchens and hallways that stretched the length of a city block. They were paid $12 an hour, which was the average for a commercial janitor in Atlanta. Most of them were black. Some were Hispanic. A few were immigrants whose English was still new and careful. Not one person in the building who worked during the day knew any of their names. They came in after the lights dimmed, and they left before the lights came back on. They existed in the space between one workday and the next. The way air exists in a room, necessary. Invisible, Tori did not see them come in, not because she looked away. because they entered from a door she had never used at an hour she had never been present for. Doing work she had never once thought to ask about. The building was always clean when she arrived. That was all she knew. That was all she had ever needed to know. She got in her car, checked her phone. 2 missed calls. One from her co-founder Ethan Cross about the quarterly board presentation. One from a number she did not recognize. She called Ethan back. The number she did not recognize was her father's landline. He still had one. He had called at 6:47 that evening, which was the time he always called, because it was the time he had always called. Even when she was in college, even when she was in business school, even when she was 26 and sleeping on a futon in a rented office, trying to build something out of nothing. 6:47, every time, she did not call back. Victoria Brennan had not spoken to her father in 7 months. Not because she was angry, not because there had been a fight or a falling out or a door slammed hard enough to crack the frame. Nothing like that. She had simply gotten busy, and then busier. And then the kind of busy where you stop noticing the things that are missing. Because the things that are present take up every square inch of available space. She had a reminder on her phone every Sunday. Call Dad. She had dismissed it 31 consecutive times. Each time she told herself next week. 31 next weeks is 7 months. That is how long it takes for silence to become a habit, and for a habit to become something a person stops noticing entirely. She did not hate her father. She did not resent him. She loved him the way a person loves something they have placed very carefully on a high shelf out of sight, in a room they no longer enter, gently, distantly, and without realizing that the shelf is getting dusty. She had meant to call. Every Sunday she had meant to call. But Sunday morning became Sunday afternoon, and Sunday afternoon became Sunday evening, and Sunday evening became Monday morning, and by Monday morning the moment had passed, and it was easier to let it pass than to pick up the phone and hear the particular silence that happens when someone you love asks how you are, and you realize you do not know how to answer anymore. Because how do you tell your father that you are worth $1.3 billion and you have never felt more poor? Raymond Brennan lived alone in a small house in Decatur, Georgia, 20 minutes east of Atlanta by car. It was the house he and Claire had bought 30 years ago, when Tori was 2 years old. When Ray was 37 and Claire was 35, when they were both young enough to believe a mortgage was the scariest thing they would ever face together. He had paid off that mortgage 9 years ago. Claire had been alive to see it. They celebrated with champagne on the front porch. Tori was 33 then. Finishing her second year running Brennan and Cross, she sent them a card. She did not come home. Claire had held that card for a long time, read it twice, then placed it on the mantel next to a photograph of Tori at 8 years old, gap-toothed, holding a trophy from her first tennis tournament. "We're so proud of you, sweetheart. We love you so much." The handwriting was Tori's. Neat, efficient, the kind of handwriting that comes from signing documents all day. The words were true, but they were not the same as being there. Claire knew that. Ray knew that. Neither of them said it. The front steps had been painted twice since Tori left for college. Both times by Ray himself. The first time Claire helped. The second time Claire was gone, and Ray painted alone. The hallway from the front door to the kitchen had photographs on both walls. Tori at 4 years old standing in the front yard with a plastic baseball bat. Tori at 9 in a suit, 2 sizes too big at her grandmother's funeral. Tori at 14 on the tennis court at her high school, mid-serve, the ball leaving her racket. Tori at 18, graduation cap, the smile of someone who believed everything was about to begin. Tori at 24 shaking hands with her first investor. The last photograph was Tori at 24 receiving her MBA. That was 18 years ago. There were no photographs after that. Not because nothing happened, because everything happened so fast that no one stopped to take a picture that Ray was in. Or maybe the person Tori became after 24 was someone who lived in a world where her father did not fit in the frame anymore. Tori's old bedroom was at the end of the hall. Ray kept it exactly the way it was the day she left. Single bed, Serena Williams poster above the headboard, a stack of textbooks on the desk, economics, corporate finance, venture capital strategy, a pair of running shoes in the closet that no longer fit anyone. He changed the sheets once a month. He did not know why. She was not coming home to sleep in them, but the act of pulling the fitted sheet tight over the corners and smoothing the pillowcase flat was something his hands knew how to do for her, and he was not ready to let his hands forget. On the nightstand, there was a framed photograph he had never shown anyone. Tori at 8 years old, kitchen table. Homework spread out in front of her. Ray sitting beside her, his hand on her shoulder, both of them looking at a math problem, like it was the most important thing in the world. Claire had taken the photograph. She was good at that, catching moments that mattered before anyone realized they were moments. Ray looked at that photograph every time he changed the sheets, and every time he thought the same thing. I was there once. I knew how to be there. I can find my way back. Ray was not poor. He owned his home outright. He had $78,000 in a savings account. Tori had set up an automatic transfer 3 years and 4 months ago. $2,500 a month, deposited on the first of every month into an account she had opened in his name. She had not called once in those 3 years and 4 months to ask whether the money had arrived. It always did. The way automated things always do. Reliably, impersonally. Without a voice attached. Ray did not need a job. But in March of that year, Raymond Brennan walked into the offices of Billionaire Services, a commercial cleaning company contracted to service 6 office towers in Midtown and downtown Atlanta. And he applied for a position on the night custodial crew. He used his first and middle name only, Raymond B. He left the last name blank on the application. And when the interviewer asked for it, he said his full legal name was Raymond B. And the woman wrote it down without pressing further, because she had 16 open positions and 6 of them needed to be filled by Friday. Her name was Keisha Morgan, 45 years old, regional manager for Billionaire. Born and raised in College Park, she had been managing cleaning crews for 12 years. She had hired hundreds of people in that time. She had watched most of them leave. Some lasted a few weeks, some lasted a few months. The ones who stayed longer than a year were either desperate for the paycheck or carrying something they needed the work to hold in place. Keisha sat across from Ray in a small office that smelled like industrial cleaner and burnt coffee. "How old are you, Mr. Brennan?" 67. "Why do you want this job?" "I like to clean. I'm good at it." Keisha looked at him for a long moment. She had seen a lot of applicants. Young men who needed quick cash, older women who needed something to do after their children grew up, immigrants who needed any job that would take them. But she had never seen a 67-year-old man with hands that soft applied to scrub toilets at midnight. These were not the hands of someone who had worked manual labor. These were the hands of someone who had worked with people. She looked at the application again. "You were a nursing assistant for 24 years. This pays $12 an hour. That's less than half what you were making. I know what it pays. Can you work nights?" 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. I can work whenever you need me. Keisha tapped her pen against the desk. "Do you have family, Mr. Brennan?" Ray paused. The question was not on the form, but it was the question that mattered. "I have a daughter." "She know you're applying for this job?" "No, ma'am." Keisha looked at him for another long moment. Then she nodded. "All right. I'll put you on the schedule." She assigned him to the crew at Brennan Tower. She did not ask if there was a problem when she told him. She watched his face. He stood very still for a moment. Then he said no. No problem at all. But Keisha saw something flicker across his eyes. Something that looked like relief, and something that looked like grief. And she wondered, what kind of daughter did not know? Her father was about to spend his nights cleaning floors in a building 6 miles from his house. She did not ask. She had learned a long time ago that the people who came through her door carried stories she did not need to know. All she needed to know was whether they would show up. And something told her Raymond B. would show up. Every single night. On his first night, Ray put on the navy blue uniform in his bedroom at home. He stood in front of the mirror on the back of the closet door and looked at himself. He did not recognize the man looking back. Not because of the uniform, because the last time he had worn a uniform for work was 5 years ago, when he was a nursing assistant at Grady Memorial Hospital. He had worn scrubs then, teal. He remembered the color. He remembered the feel of the fabric. He remembered the way his feet ached after a 12-hour shift, and the way he would sit on the edge of his bed. And Tori, who was 15 then, would bring him a glass of water without being asked. She had done that for 3 years. Every time he came home from a long shift, never asked if he needed it. She knew, the same way she knew which days had been hard, by the way he took off his shoes at the door, the same way she knew when to talk and when to sit beside him in silence. She had been good at seeing people back then. Before she learned to build towers, he looked at himself now. Navy blue. Name badge. Raymond B., no last name. He picked up his car keys. He drove 20 minutes west in the dark. He pulled into the parking garage of a building with his daughter's name on it. And he clocked in for the first time at 9:58 on a Tuesday night in March. The elevator opened on the 41st floor. Ray stepped out pushing a cleaning cart. The hallway was dark. Then the motion sensor lights flickered on, one panel at a time. Triggered by his movement, he was the only reason those lights turned on at this hour. The only body in the building that made this floor come alive after midnight. He stood in the hallway for a moment, breathing. The air smelled like leather and carpet cleaner, and something else. Something faint. Expensive perfume. Designer cologne. The smell of people who worked in places like this. People like his daughter. He started with the large conference room. 12 leather chairs around a long table. A whiteboard on the far wall still covered in notes from the afternoon. Someone had written Q4 strategy across the top in red marker, and drawn arrows connecting boxes he did not understand. He wiped the table, started at one end, moved slowly, the way Claire had taught him to clean when they first bought the house in Decatur. You don't clean to make things look good. You clean to make things right. He could still hear her voice, even 5 years after she was gone. He emptied the trash can. He straightened the chairs. He did not erase the whiteboard. That was not his job. The pantry next. 3 coffee mugs sitting unwashed in the sink. A half-eaten salad in a plastic container with a fork still in it. A protein bar wrapper on the counter. He cleaned all of it, washed the mugs by hand, even though there was a dishwasher, because washing by hand meant he could feel whether they were truly clean. The way Claire had taught him, he wiped the counter until it was dry. He replaced the trash bag, the executive restroom. He scrubbed the sink and the mirror and the floor tiles on his knees. The tiles were Italian marble. He did not know that. He only knew they were cold under his palms, cold the way the hospital floors had been cold when he knelt to help a patient who had fallen. Cold the way the kitchen floor in Decatur had been cold the night Claire collapsed. Cold the way everything feels when you are on your knees and the world is happening above you. Then he reached the end of the hallway. The glass door, the corner office, the name on the door was not written anywhere. It did not need to be. Everyone who worked on this floor knew whose office it was. He looked through the glass. Walnut desk. Bookshelves behind it. A row of photographs on the shelf. Tori shaking hands with the governor of Georgia. Tori on the cover of a business magazine. Tori at a podium giving a speech. And in the far corner of the shelf, smaller than the others, in a simple black frame, a photograph of a man holding a baby girl. The man was 37 years old. The baby was 3 months. The woman beside them was smiling. That photograph was the smallest one on the shelf, but it was there. Ray opened the door. He emptied the trash can, a protein bar wrapper, a crumpled sticky note, a business card from someone whose name he did not recognize. He wiped the desk, started at the left corner, moved in circles the way Claire had taught him, never straight lines. Circles pick up more dust. There was a coffee stain near the center, faint, the kind that builds up over weeks. The kind that happens when someone puts down the same cup in the same spot every single day without thinking about it. He remembered Tori at 8 years old. She had spilled orange juice on this same desk. Not this desk. The desk in the house in Decatur. The desk where she did her homework. She had cried when it happened. Big tears. The kind children cry when they think they have ruined something important. It's okay, baby. Mistakes can be cleaned. That's what cleaning is for. He had shown her how to wipe in circles, how to check if the surface was truly dry, how to look at something from different angles to see if you missed a spot. She had watched him so carefully, like she was memorizing every movement. Now she sat at a desk worth more than that entire house. and someone else cleaned her mistakes. He vacuumed the rug. He cleaned the way he had cleaned everything in his life. Thoroughly, without rushing. Without complaint, he reached into the trash can one more time. A piece of paper he had missed. A yellow sticky note crumpled into a ball. He smoothed it open, handwriting. He recognized it immediately. He had known this handwriting since it was the alphabet written in pencil in a first-grade workbook. The letters were different now, sharper, more confident, but the way the T was crossed slightly too high, and the way the Y dropped below the line with a small curl at the bottom. That had not changed. He read the words, "Dad's birthday next week. Don't forget." Ray folded the note. He put it in the pocket of his uniform. He stood there for a moment, in his daughter's office, holding a piece of paper that proved she still remembered. Even if she did not call, even if 7 months had passed, she remembered. And maybe that was enough. Maybe that was all he needed. Just the knowing that somewhere in the middle of her billion-dollar life, there was still a space that held him. Even if it was only the size of a sticky note. He did not read it again. That was not why he took it. He took it because it was proof. Proof that he was not invisible to her. Just invisible in her. There is a difference. He finished cleaning the office. He turned off the light. He closed the glass door behind him. He had not come here to be sad. He had come here to be close. And for the first time in 7 months, he was. 3 years. That is how long Ray cleaned the 41st floor of his daughter's building. 1,095 nights. And each one held something. In February of the first year, he found a bottle of painkillers in the top drawer of Tori's desk. Prescription for her back. He held the bottle and read the label. And remembered a tennis match her junior year of high school, when she came down wrong on a serve, and lay on the court holding her lower back. And he had run from the bleachers so fast he lost a shoe. Claire had grabbed his arm. "She's okay. Let the trainer check her first." But Ray could not stop running, because when your child is hurt, the distance between you and them becomes the only distance that matters. He had knelt beside Tori on that court, put his hand on her shoulder. "You're okay, baby. Breathe. Just breathe." She had looked up at him with tears in her eyes. "It hurts, Dad. I know, but you're going to be okay. I promise." And she had believed him, because when you are 17, your father's promises are still things you can believe in. He put the bottle back exactly where he found it. He did not tell anyone, but for the rest of that week he checked the drawer every night to make sure the bottle was still there. To make sure she was not taking too many. To make sure she was okay, even though she would never know he was checking. In June of the first year, Tori stayed late, past 11. Ray heard her voice from the hallway while he was cleaning the conference room 2 doors down. She was on the phone. Her voice was tired and sharp at the edges. The voice of a person who had been holding something together all day and was running out of grip. He stood in the hallway with his cart. He did not go in. He stood there and listened to his daughter sound exhausted. And he could not hold her, could not walk into that office and put his hand on her shoulder and say, "You're okay, baby. Breathe, just breathe." Because she was not 17 anymore, and his promises were not things she believed in. He pushed his cart to the next room and wondered if there would ever come a day when the distance between you and your child stops being the only distance that matters. In November of the first year, his colleague asked him a question during their break in the basement lounge. The colleague's name was Darnell Hayes, 54 years old. Born in Atlanta, West Side. He had been cleaning office buildings for 13 years. Hotels in College Park, medical offices in Decatur, commercial buildings in Midtown. Darnell had cleaned places where people made more money in an hour than he made in a month. He did not think about that anymore. He had stopped thinking about it around year 4, when the math became too exhausting to keep carrying. Darnell noticed Ray the first week. Not because Ray said anything unusual, because of the way he held the mop. Too carefully. Not the grip of someone who had done this for years. The grip of someone whose hands were trained for something else. Darnell watched him for months. He watched the way Ray talked. Measured. Clear. The vocabulary of someone who had spent time in professional settings. He watched the way Ray moved through the building. Most of the crew moved fast. Get in. Get done. Get home. Ray moved differently on the 41st floor. He slowed down. He spent more time there than on any other floor. He cleaned the corner office at the end of the hall, with attention that went beyond thoroughness. It was something closer to tenderness. 14 months in Darnell asked. They were in the basement break room. 2 plastic chairs. A microwave that smelled like last night's soup. Darnell was eating a sandwich he had packed that morning. Ray was sitting with a cup of tea, not drinking it, holding it. Ray, can I ask you something? Ray looked at him. Why do you clean the 41st floor the way you do? I want to do it right. Darnell put down his sandwich. I've been cleaning this building 6 years. I've seen every janitor who's ever been assigned to the executive floors. Not one of them cleaned it the way you clean it. He leaned forward. You clean that floor like it's your house. Ray did not answer. He looked down at the tea in his hands. The surface of it trembled slightly. Whether from his hands or from something else, Darnell could not tell. Darnell did not push. He picked up his sandwich and took another bite. You don't have to tell me anything, Ray. I see it. That's all I'm saying. I see it. That was all he said. He did not ask again, not that night, not the next night, not any night after. But starting from that evening, Darnell began cleaning the 41st floor alongside Ray. He did not announce it. He did not explain it. He simply showed up at the elevator when Ray's cart rolled out, and he walked beside him with his own cart. And they cleaned the floor together in silence. It was the kind of friendship that does not require conversation to begin. The kind built not on shared words, but on shared presence. On the understanding that sometimes the most important thing you can do for another person is simply be in the room with them and not ask why they are there. Ray had been doing that for his daughter for over a year. Now Darnell was doing it for Ray. In the second year, Ray began doing small things in Tori's office that no one would notice. He lined up the books on her shelf so their spines were even. He replaced her trash bag before it was full. He wiped the ring on her desk more carefully than he wiped any other surface in the building. Not because the ring was more important, because it was hers. Every afternoon, she put her coffee cup down in the same spot. Never used a coaster. The ring built up slowly, week by week, until it became part of the desk. Most people would not notice it. But Ray noticed everything about the way his daughter moved through space. The way she left cabinet doors half open. The way she stacked papers in piles instead of files. The way she kept 3 pens on her desk, but only ever used one. The same things she had done at 8 years old, when she did homework at the kitchen table in Decatur, and he would sit beside her, not helping unless she asked, being there. That was all. He adjusted the angle of the photograph on the shelf, the one with the man and the baby and the woman, so it faced the desk more directly. So every morning, when Tori sat down, her family would be looking back at her. Even if she did not look at them, small things, the kind of care that leaves no fingerprint, the kind of love that does not ask to be seen, Tori never noticed. She never wondered who did it. That was the point. In the second year, on a Thursday night in October, Ray's back gave out on the 30th floor. He had been pulling a heavy trash bin across the hallway, and something seized in his lower spine. Not pain lock. The kind of lock that happens when a boss body has been asked to do more than it should for longer than it could. He sat down on the floor. He leaned against the wall. He breathed. He was 65 years old, and his body was not 65 the way he needed it to be. Commercial janitors in the United States have one of the highest rates of musculoskeletal injury among all service workers. The average age of a janitor in this country is 46, but the number of cleaning workers over 60 has been climbing for years, because pensions are disappearing, and Social Security does not stretch the way it used to, and the work does not care how old you are. It only cares whether you show up. Ray did not belong to that group. He had savings. He had a home. He had a daughter who deposited $2,500 into his account every month without calling. But sitting on that floor at 2 in the morning with his back locked and the fluorescent lights buzzing above him, he was living their reality. Every hour of it, the fluorescent lights made a sound most people do not notice. A low hum. The kind that gets inside your head if you listen long enough. Ray had been listening for 2 years. He looked up at the ceiling. What a stain in the corner. Probably a leak from the 31st floor. No one had fixed it. No one would fix it. Because no one who made decisions in this building ever looked at this ceiling. He wondered if his daughter knew how many conference rooms were on the 30th floor. He was certain she did not. He wondered if she knew the names of any of the people who cleaned them. He already knew that answer, too. After 20 minutes, his back unlocked. He stood slowly. He finished his shift. He did not tell anyone. In the 3rd year, Tori began arriving earlier, 6:30 in the morning. Sometimes the gap between her arrival and Ray's departure shrank to less than an hour. Some mornings he had not finished the 41st floor. When he heard the elevator chime down the hall, he would leave his cart in the supply closet and take the stairs. 41 flights down in shoes that were not made for stairs. He moved quickly, quietly. The way a person moves when being seen is not an option. One morning he was still in the hallway when the elevator doors opened at the far end. He turned the corner in time. He heard her footsteps on the marble. Heels, the same sharp click he used to hear when she was 24 and practicing for job interviews in the house in Decatur. Walking back and forth in the hallway, Claire sitting on the couch calling out, "Shooter's back, baby. You've got this." And Toriko calling back, "I'm scared, Mom." Everyone's scared. That's how you know it matters. Ray pressed his back against the wall of the stairwell and held his breath. The footsteps got closer, then stopped. He heard her voice, faint, talking on the phone, the same voice he had heard at 15, at 20, at 30, the same voice that used to say "Good night, Dad" before bed, the same voice that had not said his name in 7 months. The footsteps moved away. The glass door opened. Closed. Ray let out his breath, the closest they had been in 3 years, one wall between them. He looked down at his hands, still holding a bottle of glass cleaner, still wearing the navy blue uniform, still invisible. He wondered what she would have done if she had turned the corner, if she had seen him standing there, if recognition had crossed her face. He wondered if she would have been glad, or if she would have been ashamed. He did not know which one would hurt more. He took the stairs down, 41 flights, his knees screaming by the time he reached the bottom. But he did not take the elevator, because taking the elevator meant risking being seen. And being seen meant the end of this. Whatever this was, it was all he had. What most people did not see about Victoria Brennan was this. She was losing, not publicly, not yet, but the kind of losing that happens inside a building before it shows on the outside. Brennan and Cross Capital had lost a $250 million development deal in Midtown. The land parcel they had been negotiating for 16 months went to a competing firm in Chicago. The call came on a Thursday afternoon. Tori sat in her office and listened to her lawyer explain the terms of withdrawal. And she did not say a word for 55 seconds after the call ended. She sat there, looking at the skyline through the window like it had changed shape, like the buildings had moved, like the city she had spent 15 years trying to own had decided it did not want to be owned by her anymore. Her co-founder Ethan Cross had started having private conversations with 2 Woodboard members about restructuring the partnership. Tori knew, because her assistant had seen the calendar invites. Meetings Tori was not invited to. Lunches at restaurants Ethan only went to when he wanted distance from the office. The kind of distance that comes before a decision. Ethan was 6 years older than Tori. He had been the one with Wall Street experience, the one with connections, the one investors had wanted to back. But Tori had the better pitch and the better optics. 26-year-old female founder, diverse, driven, the kind of story that looked good in press releases, so the investors chose her. And Ethan smiled and shook her hand and took the title of COO. But she had always known, some resentments do not fade, they ferment. And 6 years is a long time to ferment. Tori was not sleeping well. 3 hours most nights. Sometimes 4. She drank 5 cups of coffee a day. Black, no sugar. The first one at 6:15 before she left the penthouse. The last one at 4:30 in the afternoon. Standing in the pantry on the 41st floor, staring at the espresso machine while it worked. She had started seeing a doctor for stomach pain. The doctor said it was stress. The doctor said to rest. Tori nodded and went back to the office. She was carrying the company the way a person carries something too heavy for one set of hands. Not because no one else could help. Because she had stopped believing anyone else would carry it right. That is what happens when you build something from nothing at 26. You never fully trust that it can stand without you holding it up. So you hold it, and you hold it. And you do not put it down. Because putting it down feels like letting go. And letting go feels like the version of yourself that slept on a futon in a rented office and ate ramen out of a styrofoam cup was right all along. That you were never supposed to make it this far. She was 42 years old, and she was tired in a way that sleep could not fix. Tired in the bones. Tired in the part of a person that is supposed to remember why they started. And somewhere in the middle of all of that, buried under the meetings, calls and the board pressure and the stomach pain and the coffee and the silence of a penthouse that was too large for one person, there was a reminder on her phone. Every Sunday at 11 in the morning, 2 words called Dad. She had dismissed it 31 consecutive times, not angrily, not deliberately. The way you dismiss a notification when your hands are full, and you tell yourself you will come back to it, except you do not come back. And the next Sunday it appears again, and you dismiss it again. And after enough Sundays, the act of dismissing it becomes automatic. The thumb moves before the thought forms. 31 Sundays. 7 months. She remembered the last time she spoke to him. She was at Hartsfield Jackson, Gate B17, waiting for a flight to Dallas. He had called at 6:47. She picked up on the 4th ring. The call lasted 4 minutes. He asked if she was eating enough. She said yes. She was not. She had eaten a protein bar in the car on the way to the airport. The same protein bar she ate most days. The same protein bar that tasted like cardboard and efficiency. Not like the cornbread her father used to make. Not like anything that required sitting down. He asked about the weather in Atlanta. She said it was fine. She did not know what the weather was. She had not looked at the sky in weeks. She told him she had a flight in 20 minutes. He was quiet for a moment, the kind of quiet that is not empty, the kind that is full of all the things a person has decided not to say. Then he said, "I'm glad you're doing well." She said, "Thank you, Dad. I'll call you next week." She did not call the next week, or the week after, or any of the 31 weeks that followed. She did not know what that sentence meant. "I'm glad you're doing well." She heard it as a pleasantry, a closing line. The kind of thing fathers say at the end of a phone call. She did not hear what was underneath it, that he had not seen her in over a year, that he was sitting in a house full of her photographs and none of her presence, that he had spent the last 4 minutes listening to her voice, the way a person listens to music they have missed, not for the words, for the sound. She was not a bad daughter. She was a missing one. And there is a difference between those two things that matters more than most people realize. A bad daughter knows she is causing harm and chooses it anyway. A missing daughter does not know she is gone. She thinks she is still there. Because the automatic deposit goes through on the 1st of every month. And the reminder is still on her phone. And the love is still somewhere inside her, folded up and stored in a drawer she will open when things slow down. Except things do not slow down. They only move faster. And the drawer stays closed. Every evening Tori left the building at 9. Every evening Ray arrived at 10. 1 hour. That was the distance between them. 1 hour and 41 flights of stairs. 3 weeks later, Tori stayed in her office past midnight for the first time in 2 years. A deal had resurfaced. An investor group in Seoul wanted to discuss terms. The call was scheduled for 1 in the morning Atlanta time. Her assistant had offered to set up a conference line from the penthouse. Tori said no. She would stay at the office. She wanted the files in front of her. She wanted the whiteboard. She wanted to be in the room where she did her thinking. At 11:30, she was sitting at her desk, reviewing projections when she heard something in the hallway. A sound she had never heard before. In this building at this hour, the soft squeak of rubber wheels on marble, the faint clatter of spray bottles in a plastic caddy, the sound of someone working. She looked up from her screen, through the glass wall of her office, down the hallway. She saw a figure, a person pushing a cleaning cart toward the elevator at the far end of the floor. The person's back was to her, navy blue uniform. Short gray hair. The person moved at a steady pace, not fast, not slow. the pace of someone who knew exactly where they were going and had been going there for a long time. She watched for maybe 4 seconds, 5 at most. Then the elevator doors opened, and the person stepped inside, and the doors closed, and the hallway was empty again. Tori sat still. Something had moved through her. Not recognition. Something before recognition. The way your body remembers a smell before your mind can name it. The way your chest tightens when a song plays that you have not heard in years. And you cannot remember the title, but your hands remember the feeling of hearing it. It was in the walk. Something about the way the person carried themselves. The angle of the shoulders, the particular steadiness of the stride. It was familiar in a way that lived below language, below thought. In the place where the body stores the people, it has loved the longest. She shook her head slightly. She looked back at her screen. The numbers were still there. The call was in 90 minutes. She had work to do, but for the rest of the night, even after the call ended, even after she drove home, even after she lay in bed staring at the ceiling, she could not stop thinking about that walk. The next morning, she called her assistant into her office. Who cleans this floor at night? The cleaning company, ma'am. Build Right Services. They've had the contract for 6 years. Do you know who specifically cleans this floor? No, ma'am. I've never been here at night. Tori nodded. Never mind. She waved her hand. Her assistant left. Tori did not think about it again that day or the day after. But the feeling did not leave. It sat in a place she could not reach. The way a melody sits in the back of your mind when you cannot remember the song. But your body hums it anyway. It remembers before you do. It always does. 4 nights before the end, Ray was cleaning the executive restroom on the 41st floor. The Italian marble. The same tiles he had scrubbed on his knees every night for nearly 3 years. He was working near the far wall, where the floor met the base of the sink, when his left foot slipped on the wet surface. His shoe. The same pair he had been wearing since the beginning. The treads worn smooth from 1,000 nights of walking on polished stone. They gave way beneath him. He went down hard. His right hip hit the tile first. Then his shoulder, then the side of his head grazed the edge of the sink cabinet. He lay on the floor. The fluorescent light above him buzzed. The ceiling tiles had a crack in the second row from the left. He had never noticed it before. He noticed it now, because he was looking up at it from the ground. The crack ran diagonal. Started near the vent. Ended near the sprinkler head. Someone should fix that. Someone would not fix that. Because the people who made decisions about fixing things never looked at ceilings from the ground. He tried to push himself up. His hip screamed. Not that the dull ache he had learned to live with. Sharp. Like something inside had torn. He stopped. He tried again. He got one hand flat on the floor and pressed. The pain ran from his hip to his ribs like something tearing. Like the sound fabric makes when it rips. Except this was inside him. He stopped again. He lay there, breathing. The floor was cold. Cold the way hospital floors are cold. Cold the way the kitchen floor in Decatur had been cold the night Claire collapsed. He had found her there. 5 years ago, on the kitchen floor. She had been making cornbread. The bowl was still on the counter. Batter half mixed. Wooden spoon resting against the rim. She had put one hand on the counter to steady herself. And then she was on the floor. And Ray was kneeling beside her. And the floor was cold. And he could not make it warm, no matter how tightly he held her. 10 minutes later, Darnell found him. He had been cleaning the pantry down the hall, and had come to check when Ray did not appear at their usual meeting point by the elevator. He walked into the restroom and saw Ray on the floor, one hand braced against the wall, trying to pull himself up by the paper towel dispenser. Ray, I'm fine. I slipped. Help me up. Darnell did not help him up. He pulled out his phone. Ray. I'm calling Keisha. Don't. I'm calling Darnell. I don't need. You're on the floor. You need help. I can get up, then get up. Ray tried. He got one knee under him. The pain shot through his hip like electricity. He stopped. Darnell knelt beside him. Brother. You're hurt. I'm fine. You're not fine. And I'm calling our manager. You can be mad at me later. Darnell stood and made the call. Ray sat back against the wall. He looked at the crack in the ceiling. Someone should fix that. Keisha arrived in the service elevator 4 minutes later. She had been doing rounds on the 23rd floor. She always did rounds. Most regional managers sat in offices and reviewed timesheets. Keisha walked buildings. She said it was the only way to know if a crew was really working. But the truth was, she had been a cleaner for 8 years before she became a manager. And she remembered what it felt like when no one in management knew your name. She looked at Ray on the floor. "I'm calling an ambulance. I don't need an ambulance. I need to stand up." Ray said it the way a person says it when they have been handling pain alone for so long that they no longer recognize it as pain. They recognize it as another thing to get through. Mr. Brennan. "You're 67 years old. You're on the floor. I'm calling." She pulled out her phone. Ray tried one more time to stand. He got both hands on the wall, plived. His hip buckled. He went back down. Not hard, slow, the way a building settles. Keisha made the call. The ambulance arrived 12 minutes later. 2 paramedics, young, efficient. They asked Ray questions while they checked him. "What's your name?" "Raymond Brennan." "How old are you?" 67. "Do you know where you are?" "I'm at work." "What year is it?" Ray paused. "Do you really think I hit my head that hard?" The paramedic smiled. "Just checking, sir." They examined his hip. Asked him to rate the pain on a scale of 1 to 10. Ray said 4. Keisha said he's lying. The paramedic looked at Ray. "Is she right?" Ray did not answer. The paramedic nodded. "We're recommending transport to Grady Memorial for x-rays. Possible hairline fracture. Could be a deep bruise. Either way, you need imaging." "I don't need imaging. I need to finish my shift, sir. I'm not getting in that ambulance." The paramedics looked at each other, then at Keisha. Keisha looked at Ray. "Mr. Brennan, I can't force you to go, but I also can't let you keep working tonight. I'm fine. You're not fine. And if you keep working and something happens, I'm liable. So you're going home." Ray started to argue. Keisha held up her hand. "This isn't a negotiation. Darnell's going to drive you. I'm filing an incident report, and you're taking tomorrow night off. I don't need. Those are your options. Take them or I'm calling your emergency contact." Ray went still. "I don't have an emergency contact." "Everyone has an emergency contact, Mr. Brennan." I left it blank. Keisha looked at him for a long moment. "Why?" "Because I didn't want anyone to know." The paramedics left. Darnell helped Ray to his car. Keisha stayed in the restroom. She stood there for a moment, looking at the spot on the floor where Ray had been lying. Then she went to the basement, to her office, to fill out the form she had filled out 100 times before. Except this time felt different. This time she had a feeling that the blank line was going to matter. Keisha sat Ray down in the break room. After Darnell helped him downstairs, she pulled out the incident report form. Every workplace in the United States is required by OSHA to document injuries that occur on the job, but in the commercial cleaning industry, particularly among outsourced crews, injuries are routinely underreported. Workers fear losing shifts. Workers fear being replaced. Workers on temporary contracts fear that a single incident report is the beginning of the end of their employment. Ray was not afraid of losing his job. He was afraid of something else entirely. Keisha worked through the form: name, date, time, location, nature of injury. She wrote carefully. Her handwriting was neat. The kind of handwriting that comes from filling out forms for 12 years. The kind that comes from knowing that sometimes these forms are the only proof that a person was hurt, that a person mattered. She reached the line that read emergency contact. She looked at Ray. Ray looked at the form. The line was blank, still blank after 3 years. Darnell was standing near the lockers. He had not left the room. He had his arms crossed, not angry. Worried. "Ray, you gotta let someone know." Ray shook his head. "Do you have family?" Ray looked at him. "Do you have children?" A long silence. The microwave hummed in the background. The fluorescent tube above them flickered once. Keisha stopped writing. "Yes." Darnell leaned forward. "Then why don't you call them?" Ray looked at Darnell. He looked at him for a long time. Something in his face shifted. Not breaking, opening the way a door opens when the person behind it has been leaning against it for years, and finally steps back. Ray took a breath. "Because my daughter owns this building." The room went completely still. Keisha's pen stopped moving. Darnell's hand, which had been resting on the locker door, dropped to his side. Neither of them spoke. The sentence sat in the air, the way a heavy object sits on a surface that was not built to hold it. You could feel the weight of it pressing down on everything in the room. Ray did not say anything else. He did not explain. He did not cry. He sat in the plastic chair in the basement break room of his daughter's building, in his navy blue custodial uniform, with a bruised hip and a blank emergency contact line, and 3 years of silence sitting on his shoulders. Keisha found her voice first. She spoke quietly. "Your daughter is Victoria Brennan." Ray nodded. "And she doesn't know you work here?" "No, ma'am." "How long?" 3 years. Keisha set down her pen. She had been managing cleaning crews for 12 years. She had seen people work for a lot of reasons: money, boredom, loneliness, desperation. But she had never seen this Mr. Brennan. Why? Ray looked at his hands. "Because she stopped calling. And I didn't know how to call her. And being here was the only way I could think of to be close." His voice was steady, not sad, not angry. The voice of a person who has had 3 years to make peace with a choice. Even if the choice was breaking him. Darnell walked over. He sat down in the chair beside Ray. He did not ask him another question. He did not say a word. He sat there. 2 men in cleaning uniforms under fluorescent light at 2 in the morning. One of them had carried a secret for 1,000 nights, and the weight of it had finally become too heavy to carry alone. The other one was simply there, which was enough. Keisha looked at the form, at the blank line. She did not fill it in, "Mr. Brennan. I have to file this. It's the law." "I know, but I'm not putting anyone's name down unless you tell me to." "Thank you. You should go to the hospital." "I will." He would not. Keisha knew that. She finished the form. "Darnell. Take him home." "Yes, ma'am." "And Mr. Brennan." Ray looked up. "Take tomorrow night off." "Doctor's orders." "I'm not a doctor. I'm your manager." "Same thing." Ray almost smiled. Darnell helped him stand. They walked to the elevator. Keisha watched them go. Then she looked at the form again. At the blank line. At the story it was not telling. She wondered how many other blank lines she had seen over the years. How many other people cleaning floors at midnight were carrying things she would never know about. She filed the form and went back to her rounds. But for the rest of the night, she could not stop thinking about that blank line. And the daughter who did not know her father was 10 floors below her, cleaning. 2 days passed. Darnell worked his shifts. He did not say anything to Keisha about what Ray had told him. He did not say anything to anyone. He had made a promise the night Ray fell, sitting in that break room, looking at Ray's face. "I won't tell anyone." And Darnell Hayes was a man who kept his promises the way he kept everything else in his life. Carefully, with his whole self behind it. But he watched Ray. Ray came back the next night, against Keisha's orders. He said he was fine. He was not fine. Darnell watched him walk. The limp was there, slight. Ray tried to hide it. He adjusted his stride so the favoring of his left side was less obvious. But Darnell had been walking beside him for over a year. And he knew the rhythm of Ray's steps, the way a musician knows the tempo of a song they have played 1,000 times. The rhythm was off. It had been off for 2 nights, and it was not getting better. He watched Ray push the cart down the 41st floor hallway, slower than usual, stopping every few feet to adjust his grip. He watched him wince when he bent to empty a trash can, a small wince, the kind you try to hide, the kind that means it hurts more than you're willing to admit. He watched him stand very still for a moment in front of the glass door of the corner office, the way he always did, except now one hand was pressed against his hip, and his breathing was heavier. On the second night after the fall, Darnell made his decision. He did not call Victoria Brennan. He did not have her number. He did not have access to the building directory. He was a cleaning worker. The people whose names were on the office doors were not people he could reach. But he could reach the lobby. At 5:45 in the morning, 15 minutes before the night crew clocked out, Darnell went to the 41st floor supply closet, where Ray kept his things during his shift. He stood in front of the closet for a moment, thinking this was a betrayal. Ray had told him a secret, and Darnell was about to break it. But sometimes love is a betrayal. Sometimes the only way to save someone is to do the thing they asked you not to do. He opened the closet door. He found Ray's Build Right badge hanging on the hook inside. The clip-on kind Photo ID. Name printed below the picture. Raymond B. Position. Night custodial staff Darnell held the badge in his hand. He looked at the photo. Ray was smiling in it. A small, warm smile. The kind you give when someone tells you to smile for a camera. And you are not thinking about the picture, but about something else entirely. Darnell wondered what Ray had been thinking about the day that photograph was taken. He already knew the answer. He took the badge down the elevator to the lobby. The lobby was empty. The marble floors were still wet from the night crew's last pass. The overhead lights were dimming to their daytime setting. Morning was an hour away, but the building was already preparing. The way buildings do, ready-sating. For the people who would walk through in daylight. For the people who would never know what happened in darkness. Darnell walked to the front reception desk, cantered on the marble surface. He placed the badge, fox up, not hidden, not buried under papers. Right in the center, where the morning security guard would see it first, and where the building manager or an executive assistant would see it. When handling lost items, he did not leave a note. He did not explain. He simply placed a truth on a counter and let it wait for the person who needed to find it. He stood there for a moment, looking at the badge, at Ray's face, at the smile. "I'm sorry, brother, but you can't carry this alone anymore." He turned and walked back to the elevator. He clocked out at 6. He walked to his car in the parking garage. He sat behind the wheel for a moment. He had broken his promise. He had done it the gentlest way he knew how. Not a phone call, not an accusation, not a confrontation, a badge on a desk, a photograph looking up at whoever would look down. Darnell started his car. He drove home. He did not sleep well that day because he kept thinking about what would happen when someone found that badge, and what would happen when Ray found out what Darnell had done, and whether betrayal done in love is still betrayal. He did not have an answer. The badge sat on the reception counter at 6:15 in the morning. The lobby was empty. The marble floors were still wet. The overhead lights were dimming. And in the photograph on the badge, Raymond B. was smiling. The smile his daughter had not seen in 3 years. The smile that was about to change everything. Wednesday morning. 7:15. Tori walked through the lobby of Brennan Tower, carrying a briefcase in one hand and her phone in the other. She had been awake since 5, could not sleep. The deal in Austin was falling apart. The board meeting was in 3 hours. Ethan had sent her an email at midnight, subject line, "We need to talk." She had not opened it. She knew what it said. Her assistant met her at the elevator bank with a coffee. Black, no sugar, the same coffee every morning. Handed to her at the same spot at the same time. "Good morning, Ms. Brennan." Morning. Security found a lost employee badge at the front desk this morning. Cleaning crew. "Do you want me to send it back to Buildright?" Sure. Tori did not look up from her phone. She was reading Ethan's email. "Tori, we can't keep going like this. The board wants answers. I want answers. We need to talk about the future of this partnership. My office." 10 a.m. Her assistant held the badge out. Tori glanced at it. The way a person glances at something they have already decided is not important. Her thumb was still on her phone, still hovering over the reply button, still trying to figure out what to say to a man who was about to try to take her company. Then she stopped. Her eyes moved to the badge, really looked at it. The Buildright logo at the top, blue and white, then down to the photograph, small. The size of a postage stamp, a man's face. He was smiling, a quiet smile, the kind that is not meant for the camera, but for whatever the person behind the camera reminds him of. And she knew that smile. She had known that smile her entire life. She knew the eyes. She had looked into those eyes every morning for 18 years. Over breakfast, in the car on the way to school, from the doorway of her bedroom when he came to say goodnight, from the bleachers, at tennis matches, from the hospital waiting room when her mother was dying, and he held her hand and told her it was going to be okay, even though they both knew it was not going to be okay. From the kitchen table where he sat across from her and asked about her day, and listened to every word as though no other sound in the world existed. She read the name printed below the photograph. Raymond B., no last name, no Brennan. But the name did not matter. The eyes were enough. The eyes were everything. Below the name, position, night custodial staff. Below that, the start date. March 14, 2022. She read it again. March 14, 2022. 3 years ago. 3 years. Tori did not move. The lobby continued around her. Employees walking through the turnstiles. Elevator doors opening and closing. Someone behind her said, "Good morning, Miss Brennan." She did not hear it. She was reading the words "Night Custodial Staff" for the third time. She was trying to make the words fit together with the face in the photograph. Her father. A cleaning uniform. Her building. 3 years. The phone in her hand buzzed. Another email from Ethan. She did not look at it. She said something to her assistant. Her voice had changed. Not louder. Not softer. Shifted. The way a voice shifts when the person speaking has received information that has rearranged the order of everything they thought they knew. "When does the night cleaning crew work?" 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., ma'am. "Every night." Every night. The words hit her like a fist. 1,095 nights. 1,095 nights. Her father had been inside this building 1,095 nights. He had ridden the service elevator to the 41st floor. He had pushed a cleaning cart down the same hallway she walked every morning. He had opened the glass door to her office and emptied her trash and wiped her desk and straightened her books and vacuumed her floor. He had stood in front of her photographs and looked at her face with full and steady attention of a man who had never stopped watching over his daughter. Not even when she stopped looking back. She thought about the midnight encounter. 3 weeks ago, the figure in the hallway, navy blue uniform, the walk, that walk. She had known. Some part of her had known. Her body had recognized him before her mind could catch up. She had walked past him, maybe not that night. But other nights, mornings when she arrived early, he would have been finishing, leaving, taking the stairs, 41 flights, because the elevator might mean being seen. And being seen would mean this moment where she was standing in a lobby, holding a badge with her father's face on it, and realizing that she had been so busy building an empire, that she had not noticed the man who taught her how to build was on his knees beneath her, cleaning her mess. She turned toward the elevator, then she stopped. Her legs did not hold. She took one step sideways, and her back found the wall. And she slid down it slowly, the way a building settles when something in its foundation has shifted. Her knees came up. Her head dropped forward. The badge was still in her right hand, pressed against her chest, held there the way you hold something that has broken you open. The briefcase fell. The phone clattered to the marble. She did not pick them up. She sat on the marble floor. The floor her father had cleaned. The floor he had been on his knees scrubbing while she slept in a penthouse 12 miles away. Everything she had built in the last 15 years, every deal and every number and every name on every building, all of it felt exactly the same as it had felt 5 minutes ago, and completely different at the same time. The way a room feels different after someone tells you that a person you love was standing in it all along, and you never turned around. Her assistant was beside her. Miss Brennan. "Are you okay?" Tori looked up. Her eyes were dry, not because she was holding it together, because the thing that was happening inside her had not reached her eyes yet. It was still in her chest, still moving through her, still becoming what it was going to become. She said 2 words behind him. Tori was in her office 20 minutes later. The door was closed. She had walked past 3 people who tried to talk to her. She did not hear them. She sat at her desk, the same desk her father had wiped. She looked at the coffee ring, the faint stain near the center. She had never noticed it before. Now it was all she could see. She picked up the phone. She called Build Right Services. She asked for the operations manager. A woman named Patricia answered. "This is Victoria Brennan. I need information about an employee. Raymond B. Night Custodial Staff assigned to Brennan Tower." Patricia's voice was professional. "1 moment, please." Tori heard typing. Then Patricia came back. "Raymond Brennan, 67 years old. Hired March 14, 2022. Night shift. Responsible for floors 35 through 41. Tori closed her eyes. "Go on attendance record." Perfect. Tori opened her eyes. "What? Not 1 absence in 3 years, ma'am." 3 years, and he never missed a night. "No, ma'am." Tori thought about the time she had come in early and found her office not cleaned. 2 years ago, the trash can full, the desk ring not wiped. He had been sick, and he had still tried to come. But his body would not let him, and she had called building management to complain. No complaints filed. Patricia continued. No disciplinary issues. Performance rating exceptional. One of the best we've ever had on any executive floor in any building in our entire portfolio. Tori's hand tightened on the phone. I need his home address. I can't release personal employee information. Company policy. That man is my father. Silence on the other end. A long silence. The kind that happens when a person is trying to process a sentence that does not fit any category they have been trained to respond to. Miss Brennan. Patricia's voice had changed softer. Yes, he listed no emergency contact on his file. That sentence landed harder than anything else. Harder than the badge. Harder than the start date. Harder than perfect attendance. What? His emergency contact line. It's blank. Why? I don't know, ma'am. But Tori knew. Her father had worked in her building for 3 years, and he had left the emergency contact line blank because if he had written her name, someone would have called her. And if someone had called her, the secret would have ended. And he was not ready for it to end. He had chosen to work without a safety net, rather than risk being found. He had chosen invisibility over her knowing, because knowing meant she would tell him to stop. And stopping meant losing the only closeness he had left. I need his address. Patricia gave it to her. The house in Decatur. The house Tori had not visited in 18 months. The house where she grew up. The house that still had her bedroom exactly the way she left it. She hung up the phone. She stood. She picked up her car keys from the desk. She walked out of the office. Her assistant stood. Miss Brennan. The board meeting? Cancel it. But, Ethan, cancel everything. She walked past, into the elevator, through the lobby, into the parking garage. She got in her car. Her hands were shaking. She gripped the steering wheel. Breathed, then she drove. She drove east on I-20, out of Midtown, past the new developments and the cranes and the glass towers, into the neighborhoods that got older as the highway stretched, smaller buildings, narrower streets, hand-painted signs on corner stores, porches with people sitting on them in the afternoon, the part of Atlanta that had not been redesigned, the part that looked the way it had looked when she was a girl. She had not driven this route in 18 months. The last time was her mother's birthday, 5 years after her mother died. She had gone to put flowers on the grave. Her father had been there, kneeling, pulling weeds. He did that every week. She had stayed for 10 minutes. They talked about the weather, about the traffic, about nothing. Then she left. She told herself she would come back soon. She did not come back. She turned onto the street in Decatur. The oak trees were still there. The same ones from when she was 10, taller now. The branches met over the center of the road and made a tunnel of green that filtered the late afternoon light into something softer. She had ridden her bicycle under these trees, fallen off under these trees, scraped her knee on the asphalt. Her father had carried her home, not because she could not walk, because he wanted to carry her. She had walked to school under these trees every morning for 12 years. Her father walking beside her, carrying her backpack, even when she said she could carry it herself. She had not driven under them in 18 months. Now the trees looked different. Or maybe she was different. Maybe the trees were the same, and she had forgotten what it felt like to see them. She pulled up in front of the house. The wooden gate her father had built. She had helped him. She was 16. He let her hammer the nails, even though she kept bending them. He did not take the hammer away. He showed her how to hold it, how to hit straight, how to fix the mistakes. The front steps that her father had painted twice by himself since she left for college. The first time she had offered to help, he said, "No, baby. You're busy. I got this." The second time she did not offer. The porch light on, even though it was 4:30 in the afternoon. And there was still an hour of daylight left. He always left it on. She remembered asking him why when she was 12. "Dad, why is the light always on?" "So you can always find your way home, baby. Even in the day, especially in the day. That's when it's easiest to get lost." The light inside the house was warm. He was home. She sat in the car. She did not get out. Not because she was unsure, because she was trying to find the right words. And after 7 months of silence, there are no right words. There is only showing up. And the showing up is the word. The only one that matters. She sat there for 13 minutes. She watched the house. The curtains moved. Someone inside. Her father. Doing what? Making dinner probably. He always made dinner at 4:30, so it would be ready by 6, in case she came home. Except she never came home. And he ate alone, every night for 3 years. And then drove 20 minutes to clean her office. She opened the door. She walked up the front steps. The wood creaked under her feet. The same creak from when she was 8. The same creak her father had tried to fix a dozen times. The same creak that always came back. She stood in front of the door. The same door she had walked through 10,000 times. The same door her father had opened for her 10,001 times. The same door she had not opened in 18 months. She knocked. She did not have her key anymore. Or maybe she did, somewhere, but it felt wrong to use it. Felt like she had lost the right to walk in without knocking. Footsteps inside, slow, the careful pace of someone whose body has started asking for more time between movements. The lock turned. The door opened. Ray stood in the doorway, 67 years old, house slippers, a cotton button-down shirt, an apron tied at the waist, floor on his hands. He had been making cornbread. His eyes, the same eyes from the badge, the same eyes from every morning of her childhood. Except now there were lines around them that had not been there the last time she looked closely enough to notice. Lines from 67 years. Lines from 24 years at Grady Memorial. Lines from 30 years of marriage. Lines from 5 years of widowhood. Lines from 3 years of cleaning floors at midnight. Lines from 7 months of not hearing his daughter's voice. Ray looked at his daughter. Tori looked at her father. Neither of them spoke. His right hand was on the edge of the door, his knuckles slightly swollen. The knuckles of a man who had spent 3 years gripping a mop handle every night. She had never noticed his hands before, not really. She had held them when she was small, but she had stopped looking at them somewhere along the way. Now she could not stop looking at the calluses, at the swelling, at the flour, at the proof of everything he had been doing while she was not watching. Behind him, the hallway stretched toward the kitchen, the photographs on the wall. Her photographs, every one of them, from the plastic baseball bat to the NBA, still there, still in order, still dusted. She wondered who dusted them. She knew who dusted them. The smell of food came from the kitchen, cornbread, the same cornbread he had made every Sunday for 30 years, the same cornbread she had not tasted in 18 months. He was cooking. He was always cooking, even now. Even at 67, with swollen knuckles and a bruised hip he was trying to hide. He was standing in his kitchen making dinner, making it for her, even though she had not come home in 18 months. Even though she had not called in 7 months. Even though she had dismissed the reminder 31 times. He was making cornbread, because that is what fathers do. They keep making cornbread, even when no one comes to eat it. He spoke first. What do you want to eat? Not where have you been? Not why did you stop calling? Not do you know what I have been doing for the last 3 years? Not why are you here? Not are you okay? The first sentence he said to his daughter after 7 months of silence was to ask if she was hungry. That is who he was. That is how he loved. Not in words about love, in food, in presence. In the question that had never changed since she was 6 years old and came through that same door after school. What do you want to eat, baby? Tori opened her mouth. Nothing came out. She tried again. Dad. Her voice broke on the word. Cracked, splintered, came apart. She stepped inside. She did not wait for him to move. She walked past him into the hallway. She looked at the photographs. She had seen them 1,000 times, but she had never seen them from inside the knowledge of what her father had done. Every picture, every year of her life on that wall. And for 3 of those years, he had been cleaning her office at midnight and coming home to this hallway and looking at these same pictures before he went to bed, looking at her face, the only way he could. She turned. He was standing in the doorway still, watching her, the way he had always watched her, with the full attention of a person who had memorized every version of his daughter and loved every single one. Dad. She said it again. This time it did not break. I found your badge. Ray closed the front door. He did not say anything. He walked past her. Toward the kitchen. She followed. The kitchen looked exactly the same. The same table. The same chairs. The same chipped blue mug on the counter. The same bowl of batter on the counter. The same wooden spoon. He had been in the middle of making cornbread when she knocked. He went back to it. Poured the batter into the pan. Smoothed the top with the spoon. Put it in the oven. Set the timer. Then he turned. He looked at her. You want something to drink? Dad, sweet tea. I made some this morning. Dad, stop. He stopped. His hands were still. Retting on the counter. I know. She pulled the badge from her pocket. She placed it on the table. Box up. The photograph looking at the ceiling. Ray looked down at it. He did not gasp. He did not reach for it. He did not look away. He looked at it the way a person looks at something they have been expecting. He had known this day would come. He had not known it would be today, but he had known. How long have you known? Since this morning. Someone left your badge at the front desk. He nodded. Darnell. Whoa, a friend. You have friends at my building. Ray almost smiled. I have one friend. He's the one who found me when I fell. You fell. Torty's voice went sharp. When? 4 nights ago. Where you're building. The restroom on 41. Tori sat down. Not because she chose to, because her legs stopped holding her. You fell in my building. Yes, and you didn't call me. No, why? Ray pulled out the chair across from her. He sat down slowly. His hip still hurt. She could see it in the way he moved. Because if I called you then you would know. And I wasn't ready for you to know. Why not? Because then it would be over. What would be over? This. Being close to you. It's all I had left, baby. Tori looked at him. Really looked at the lines around his eyes. At the flower on his hands. At the navy blue uniform she could now picture him wearing. At the father she had stopped seeing Dad. She stopped. 3 years. Her voice broke on the word years. It cracked the way something cracks when it has been held too tightly for too long. She did not say anything else. Because if she said one more word, the thing inside her chest would come loose, and she was not sure she could put it back together in front of him. Ray looked at his daughter. He reached across to the table. He placed his hand on top of hers. Ray's hand. The hand that had given injections to patients at Grady Memorial for 24 years. The hand that had packed her school lunches. The hand that had held her face when she was crying as a child. The hand that had held her mother's hand the night she died. The hand that now had new calluses on the palm. Hard and smooth from the handle of a mop he had gripped every night for 1,000 nights in the building with her name on it. You were busy, baby. Dad knows. Dad's not angry. He paused. Dad just missed you, and Dad didn't know how to miss you without being close. She tried to hold it. She had been holding things her entire adult life. Deals and pressure and expectations. And the weight of a company, and the distance from everything that was not the company. She had become very good at holding, but this she could not hold. This was the kitchen table in her father's house. This was the chair she had sat in since she was 5. This was the man who had taught her that clean hands are honest hands. This was the man who had been on his knees in her office for 1,000 nights, while she sat above him signing papers and taking calls, and never once looking down far enough to see him. This was the cry of a 42-year-old woman who had just realized that the most important person in her life had made himself invisible. Because being invisible in her world was better than being absent from it. She stood up. She walked around the table. She put her arms around her father. She did not say a word. He was smaller than she remembered. Or maybe she had just gotten used to being in rooms where everything was large. Or maybe he had gotten smaller. 3 years of nights on his knees. 3 years of carrying grief. 3 years of cleaning her mess. He put his hand on her back. He patted it gently. The same rhythm, the same motion. The one from when she was 8 and could not sleep. The one from when she was 12 and lost the championship match. The one from when she was 15 and found out a boy had broken her heart. The one from when she was 22 and her mother died and she could not breathe, and he held her and patted her back and told her, breathe, baby. Just breathe. I'm here. The one that had never changed. Eat, baby. It's getting cold. She pulled back. You haven't even made it yet. He smiled. I will. And then it will get cold if you don't eat it. She sat back down. She picked up a napkin. She wiped her face. She looked at her father, really looked. For the first time in 7 months, maybe longer, maybe years. Dad, do you want to keep working? He looked at her. No, baby. Dad's done. Dad did what he needed to do. She understood. He had not needed the job. He had not needed the $12 an hour, or the navy blue uniform, or the metal locker in the basement. He had needed to be near her, and now that she was near him, he did not need the mop handle to hold on to anymore. But she asked the follow-up, the question she had been holding since she saw the badge. Why didn't you just tell me? Why didn't you call? He set down his fork. He had not been eating. Neither had she. But the cornbread was in the oven, and the timer was ticking, and somehow that made everything feel more normal. Like the world had not just shifted. Like they were just having dinner. Like they always used to. Because I needed you to find me yourself, baby. I could have called. Could have shown up at your office during the day. Could have made you feel guilty. But I didn't want guilt. I wanted you to see. His voice was steady, not angry, not sad. The voice of a person who has had 3 years to think about what they would see, if this moment ever came. See that I was there, that I never left. That even when you stopped calling, I was still showing up, every single night. Not because I needed the money, because I needed you. And being there was the only way I knew how to be close when you were too far away to reach. Tori closed her eyes. You were never too far, Dad. I was always one phone call away, I know. Then why didn't you call? Because you were busy, and I didn't want to be one more thing you had to do. I wanted to be close without being a burden. You were never a burden. Ray looked at her. Then why did you stop calling baby? Tori opened her eyes. She did not have an answer, or she had too many answers, or the answer was too simple and too terrible to say out loud. Because I forgot. No, you didn't. Yes, I did. I forgot what it felt like to need you. I forgot that you might need me. I forgot that love is something you have to do, not something you just feel. She looked at the badge on the table. And you spent 3 years reminding me, by cleaning my floors. Ray reached across the table again. I spent 3 years being your father the only way I could. The timer went off. The cornbread was ready. Ray stood. He walked to the oven, pulled out the pan, set it on the cooling rack. The cornbread was golden. Perfect, the way it always was. He had been making this cornbread for 30 years. He could make it in his sleep. He probably had. He cut 2 pieces, put them on plates, brought them to the table, sat down across from his daughter. The same daughter who used to sit in this chair and do homework. The same daughter who used to come home from school and ask what's for dinner. The same daughter who used to believe her father could fix anything. The same daughter who had stopped believing somewhere along the way. Or maybe she had not stopped believing. Maybe she had just stopped asking him to fix things. Because she had learned to fix them herself. Or thought she had. They ate in silence for a few minutes. The cornbread tasted exactly the way it had always tasted. The way only his cornbread tasted. Sweet, dense. Warm like home. Tori had forgotten what home tasted like. She had been eating protein bars and takeout for 6 years. She had been eating alone. Standing up. In her car at her desk. Never at a table. Never with someone across from her asking how her day was. This was what she had been missing. Not the cornbread, the table, the chair, the man sitting across from her who had made the cornbread. Who had always made the cornbread? Who would always make the cornbread, as long as she came home to eat it? Dad, she set down her fork. I'm sorry. For what, baby? For not calling. For not coming home. For not seeing you. For building a whole life and forgetting to put you in it. You didn't forget. I did know. You remembered. You just didn't know how to come back. She looked at him. How do you know? Because you kept the reminder on your phone. You could have deleted it. But you didn't. You dismissed it 31 times. But you kept it, because some part of you knew you needed to come back. You just didn't know how. Tori wiped her eyes. I should have just called. Maybe. Ray took a bite of cornbread. But maybe you needed to find me first. Maybe that's the only way this works. What do you mean? If I had called you and told you what I was doing, you would have felt guilty. You would have told me to stop. You would have sent me more money, but you wouldn't have understood. Understood what? That I didn't need your money, baby. I needed you to see me. Really see me. Not as the man you send checks to every month. As the man who raised you. The man who taught you that people matter. All people, not just the ones in corner offices. Tori looked down at her plate. Clean hands are honest hands. Ray smiled. You remember. I remember everything you taught me, Dad. I just forgot to live it. He reached across the table one more time. Then remember now. She held his hand. The hand with the calluses. The hand that had cleaned her office. The hand that had made this cornbread. The hand that had never let go. Even when she did. I'm not letting go again. Good. They finished eating. And for the first time in 7 months, they talked, really talked. Not about the weather, not about traffic, about everything. About the 3 years, about the nights, about the sticky note, about the fall, about Darnell, about the badge. About the moment Tori saw it, about the moment Ray knew she would, about what happens now. And when the talking was done, when the plates were empty, when the sun had set outside, Ray asked the question he had been holding. What do you want to do, baby? Tori looked at him. I want you to come home. I am home, no. I mean my home. The penthouse. I want you to live with me. Ray was quiet. You don't have to answer now. No, I want to. He stood. He walked to the window, looked out at the street, at the oak trees, at the porch light that was still on. That would always be on. Baby, I love this house, I know. Your mama and I bought this house. We raised you here. She's in every room. I know, Dad. But I've been alone here for 5 years. And I thought that was what I was supposed to do. Stay here. Keep her memory alive. Wait for you to come back. But you're not coming back to this house. Tori started to speak. He held up his hand. I don't mean that in a bad way. You have your own life. Your own home. That's how it should be. But I don't want to wait anymore. I want to be where you are. So yes. I'll come home, to your home, if you'll have me. Tori stood. She walked to him. She hugged him. I'll have you. He hugged her back. They stood there. In the kitchen where she had grown up. In the house where her mother had lived. In the last place they had all been together. And they said goodbye to it. Not forever. But for now, because home was not a place. Home was wherever they were together. And they had been apart too long. 2 weeks later, Darnell Hayes received a phone call at home. A woman's voice, professional. Warm. This is Victoria Brennan. I'm the CEO of Brennan and Cross Capital. I'd like to offer you a position. Darnell was silent for a moment. Ma'am. I already have a position. I know. Night custodial staff. Build-right services. You've been with them 13 years. I'm offering you night operations supervisor for Brennan Tower. 40% pay increase. Full health care. Pension plan. Why me? Because you saw my father when no one else did. Because you kept his secret until it needed to be told. Because you're the kind of leader this building needs. Darnell accepted. Not because of the money. Because she was doing it right. Not charity. Structural change. Your father would be proud. I hope so. 3 weeks after that, Tori held a press conference. She stood at a podium in the lobby of Brennan Tower. 12 reporters. 3 camera crews. Her assistant had sent the media alert 2 days prior. She had not told anyone what the announcement was. Not even Ethan. Good afternoon. My name is Victoria Brennan. I'm the CEO of Brennan and Cross Capital. 3 months ago, I discovered that my father had been working as a janitor in this building for 3 years. I didn't know. Not because he hid from me. Though he did. But because I stopped seeing the people who made my success possible. She paused. There are 2.3 million janitors working in the United States. Most earn less than $15 per hour. Most have no health insurance. Most clean buildings where people make in a morning what they make in a month. And most of us walk past them every day without knowing their names. My father didn't need the money. He had savings. He had a home. He had a daughter who sent him $2,500 every month. But he took that job anyway. Why? Because he wanted to be close to me. And I was too busy to notice. She looked directly at the cameras. Today I'm announcing the Raymond Brennan Fund. $2 million in its first year, dedicated entirely to providing healthcare coverage for commercial cleaning workers across the state of Georgia. beginning with every single person employed by Build Right Services at every building in their portfolio. This isn't charity. This is recognition. Recognition that the people who clean our floors, who empty our trash, who make our offices possible, they deserve to be seen. They deserve to go home at night without their bodies breaking down. My father spent 3 years on his knees cleaning floors I walked on. I didn't see him, but he saw me every single night. The least we can do, the least, is see the people who make our world work. Thank you. She stepped away from the podium. She did not take questions. In the back of the room, standing against the wall, wearing a suit he had bought that morning, was Ray watching his daughter. The way he had always watched her, with pride, with love, with the knowledge that she had found her way back, not to him, to herself, to the girl he had raised, the girl who knew that clean hands are honest hands, the girl who knew that people matter, all people. She saw him. Their eyes met. She smiled. He smiled back. And for the first time in 3 years, the distance between them was not measured in floors, or hours, or months of silence. It was measured in the 20 feet between the podium and the back wall. And that was a distance she could cross. The day after the press conference, Ray moved into the penthouse. Not because Tori asked, because when she pulled up to the house in Decatur that evening, he was standing on the porch with 2 suitcases. I packed light, Dad. You don't have to. I know, but I'm ready. She helped him carry the bags to the car. 1 suitcase held clothes. The other held 3 things. A chipped blue coffee mug from the kitchen. The one he had used for 20 years. The one Claire had bought him at a yard sale when Tori was 6. Claire had picked it up, held it to the light. It's chipped, I know. That's why it's 50 cents. Ray had laughed. We don't need a 50-cent mug, Claire. She had looked at him. Everyone needs a 50-cent mug. It reminds you that broken things can still hold something warm. She bought it. Ray had used it every day since. An apron, worn at the edges, faded from 15 years of use. The same apron Claire had worn when she taught him how to make cornbread. You have to fold the batter, baby. Don't stir. Folding keeps it light. He had folded. She had watched. You're a natural. I'm just doing what you tell me. That's what makes you a natural. And a framed photograph. Small. 4x6. Tori at 4 years old with the plastic baseball bat. Standing in the front yard of this house. That photograph was the first one he had ever taken of her. The camera had been Claire's. She handed it to him. Take a picture of your daughter. I don't know how to work this thing. Point and press. That's it. He had pointed. He had pressed, and Tori had smiled. Gap-toothed, holding the bat like it was Excalibur. And he had thought, this is what love looks like. This exact moment. This smile. This girl. This life. That's all you're bringing. That's all I need. The penthouse had 3 bedrooms, Tori's, a guest room that had never been used, and an office she rarely entered. She offered him the guest room. He stood in the doorway and looked at it, white walls, a bed with a comforter still in the plastic wrapper, a nightstand with nothing on it, a lamp that had never been turned on. This is nice, baby. But what? It doesn't feel like mine. Then make it yours. Whatever you want. New furniture. Paint the walls. Anything. He smiled. I don't need new furniture. I need to be here. That's all. He set the suitcases down. He unpacked the mug and the apron and the photograph. The mug went on the nightstand. The apron he hung on the back of the door. The photograph he placed on the dresser by the window, where it would catch the morning light, where he would see it first thing, where he would remember. That first night, Tori came home at 8:30, earlier than she had come home in 6 years. She walked through the door and smelled food. She followed the smell to the kitchen. Ray was at the stove, stirring a pot. Wearing the apron, I made dinner. You didn't have to do that, I know. But I wanted to. They ate at the kitchen table. The one she had never used. The one that had been sitting empty since she bought this place. She had always eaten standing up, or at her desk, or in the car. But tonight she sat, and her father sat across from her. And they ate collard greens and cornbread and fried chicken. And for the first time in 7 months they talked. How was work today? She paused. The question caught her off guard, not because it was unusual, because no one had asked her that in so long she had forgotten what it felt like to be asked. It was hard. We lost a deal in Austin. I'm sorry, baby, but it's okay, because I have something more important than deals. What's that? I have you, and I'm not letting go again. He reached across the table. He held her hand. The calluses were still there, hard and smooth from the mop handle. They would not fade for months. But his grip was steady. I never let go, Tori. Not for one single night. She believed him, because she had seen the proof. 1,095 nights of proof. The second week, Ray asked if he could cook dinner every evening, not just some evenings. Every evening, Dad. You don't have to, I want to. But what if I'm late? What if I don't get home until 10 or 11? Then I'll leave it on the counter, covered, so it stays warm. Just like I always did when you were growing up. She thought about that. About coming home to an empty apartment for 6 years. About microwaving frozen meals. About eating protein bars in the car. About the particular loneliness of eating alone. And now this, her father. Waiting. With a plate covered in foil. Okay, he smiled, good. By the third week, a rhythm had formed. Every evening before Ray went to bed, he cooked. He put the food on the kitchen counter. He covered it with a cloth. No matter what time Tori came home, the food was there. Warm if she was early, Roven temperature if she was late, but always there. Always covered, always waiting, the way it had always been, the way it would always be. 1 month after Ray moved in, Tori came home at 6. On time, for the first time in years. Ray was in the kitchen, pulling something out of the oven. You're early. I am. Everything okay. Everything's perfect. She sat at the table. She watched him move through the kitchen, the same way he had moved through the kitchen in Decatur, with the ease of someone who knows exactly where everything is. Even though this was not his kitchen, even though he had only lived here a month, he had made it his. Dad, Mim, can you teach me? Teach you what? How to make cornbread. Ray stopped. He turned. He looked at his daughter. You want to learn? I do. Why now? Because I don't want to forget. He smiled. You won't forget, baby. It's in you. But your mama and I, we won't be here forever. And when we're gone, somebody's got to make the cornbread. Ray's eyes got wet. Not crying, just wet. The way eyes get when you realize your child is growing up, even when your child is 42. Okay, he waved her over. Come here, she stood. She walked to the counter. He handed her the bowl. First thing, you don't use a recipe. Why not? Because recipes are for people who don't know what they're doing. We know what we're doing. How do I know what I'm doing if I've never done it? Because I'm going to teach you. And once I teach you, you'll know. She smiled. Okay. He talked her through it. Not with measurement, with feeling. You want the batter thick, but not too thick. See how it falls off the spoon, like honey, not like water, not like paste, like honey. She mixed, he watched. More buttermilk, she added. Good, now fold. Don't stir. Folding keeps it light, she folded. The way Claire had taught him, the way he was teaching Tori. The way Tori would teach someone someday. If she had someone to teach. Good baby. You're a natural. I'm just doing what you tell me. That's what makes you a natural. She laughed. He had not heard her laugh in a long time. It sounded the same. The same laugh from when she was 8, from when she was 12, from when she was 20. The same laugh that made him feel like everything was going to be okay. Even when everything was not okay. They put the pan in the oven. They set the timer. They sat at the table. And they talked about Claire. About the first time Ray tried to make cornbread without her. About how it came out like a brick. About how Claire laughed so hard she cried. About how he tried again and again until he got it right. About how getting it right meant Claire could rest. Could let him take care of dinner. Could let go of one more thing when she was too tired to hold on. Your mama taught me how to make cornbread because she knew she was dying. Tori looked at him. She didn't tell me that, but I knew. She taught me how to make all her recipes that last year. Wrote them down, not with measurements. With feeling. She'd say things like, you'll know it's ready when it smells like home. Or you'll know you added enough sugar when it tastes like a sundae. I didn't understand at first. But then I did. She wasn't teaching me recipes. She was teaching me how to remember her. The timer went off. The cornbread was ready. Ray pulled it out. Golden. Perfect. Tori had made it. He cut a piece, put it on a plate, handed it to her. She took a bite. It tasted exactly right. Exactly like home, exactly like a Sunday. She looked at her father. I did it. You did it. They ate the cornbread together, and Tori thought, this is what love looks like, this exact moment. This cornbread, this man, this life. 6 weeks after the press conference, Tori called a board meeting. She had not told anyone what it was about, not even Ethan. The conference room on the 41st floor. 12 board members around the table. Ethan sat to her right. He had been distant since the press conference, not angry, careful. Like he was waiting to see what she would do next. She stood at the head. I'm making some changes to how this company operates. The room was silent. Effective immediately, we're establishing the Raymond Brennan Fund initial investment. $2 million. Purpose. Provide full healthcare coverage for every commercial cleaning worker in the state of Georgia, starting with every single person employed by Buildright Services at every building in their portfolio. One of the board members, an older man, white hair, expensive suit, leaned forward. Victoria. That's admirable, but it's not our responsibility to. It is our responsibility. She did not raise her voice. She did not need to. These people clean our buildings. They work while we sleep. They make our offices possible, and we don't even know their names. Ethan shifted in his seat. Tori, $2 million is a significant allocation. The board needs to discuss. The board can discuss, but I'm the CEO. And I'm telling you, this is happening. Another board member, a woman, younger, sharp. Is this personal? Tori paused. Yes, it's personal. My father worked as a janitor in this building for 3 years. I didn't know, because I never looked. I walked past him, maybe even literally walked past him. And I didn't see him. Not because he was hiding, because I stopped looking at people who didn't serve my goals. That changes today. The room was silent. She continued. Second change. Every executive in this company, including me, will work 1 day per quarter in the lowest paid position in our organization. We will clean. We will answer phones. We will do whatever our entry-level employees do. Not as a publicity stunt. As a reminder. A reminder that leadership means seeing the whole system. Not just the top. Ethan spoke Tori. That's unprecedented. Good. Then we'll be the first, the older board member again. And if we refuse, then you can find another company to serve on the board of. Because this one just remembered its values. The vote was 8-4 in favor. After the meeting, Ethan stayed behind. He waited until everyone else had left. Then he closed the door. Tori. Can I say something? Of course. I've been waiting 6 years for you to fail. She looked at him. I thought you got CEO because you were younger. Better optics for investors. Not because you were better. I resented you for that. I know. You knew. Of course I knew, Ethan. You weren't exactly subtle. He almost smiled. But watching you these past few months, the way you've changed this company, you didn't just find your father. You found yourself. And that's the kind of leader I want to work for. So I'm voting yes on everything you just proposed. And I'm going to do my ground floor day next quarter. She nodded. Thank you, Ethan. He stood. Your dad would be proud. I hope so. He walked to the door, stopped, turned, for what it's worth. I'm glad you found him. Me too. 2 months after the board meeting, Tori had her first ground floor day. She arrived at Brennan Tower at 6 in the morning. Not in the Porsche. In her father's old Honda. Not in a suit. In jeans and a t-shirt and sneakers. She met Darnell at the service entrance. Miss Brennan, just Tori today, Darnell. I'm here to work. You're my supervisor. He studied her for a moment. Your daddy told you to do this. He told me I needed to remember something. I'm here to remember. All right then. Let's get you a cart. She spent the first 2 hours cleaning lobbies and restrooms on floors 1 through 5, emptying trash cans. They were heavier than she expected. Each bag weighed maybe 10 pounds. But after 50 bags, her shoulders burned. Mopping floors. Her back started aching after 30 minutes. She understood now why her father's back had given out. Why he moved slower, why he winced. Scrubbing toilets. The marble was cold under her knees. The same marble her father had scrubbed. On these same knees. For 3 years, Darnell watched. He did not help unless she asked. At 8:30 they took a break. The basement break room. The same room where her father had sat with Darnell. The same room where he had told his secret. Plastic chairs. Microwave. Vending machine. Tori sat. She drank water from a paper cup. Her hands already had red marks from the mop handle. How you feeling? My back hurts. Darnell smiled. It's only been 2 hours. How do you do this every night? You get used to it. Your body learns. He paused. But some bodies learn slower than others. Your daddy's body took longer. She looked at him. You knew. I figured it out. Man doesn't clean like that unless he's cleaning for someone he loves. Darnell took a sip of his coffee. He told me. The night he fell. Why didn't you tell me? Wasn't my secret to tell. She nodded. Thank you for being to him. That's what people do. We show up for each other. From 9 to noon. They worked floors 35 through 41. Tori pushed the cart down the hallway on 41, the same hallway her father had walked every night for 3 years. She reached her own office, the glass door, the walnut desk, the books. The photographs. Darnell stood beside her. You want me to do this one? No. I need to. She opened the door. She cleaned her own office. Emptied the trash. She saw crumpled sticky notes. Recognized her own handwriting. Wiped the desk. She found the coffee ring. Faint now, almost gone, but still there. The same spot her father had wiped for 3 years. She cleaned it carefully, the way he had cleaned it, with attention, with care, with love. Straightened the books on the shelf, vacuumed the rug. Then she stopped in front of the small photograph. The one in the corner, her father holding her as a baby, her mother beside them. She picked it up. She realized something she had not realized before. This photograph was not here when she started the company. She had brought different photos to this office. Photos of her shaking hands with investors. Photos of her on magazine covers. Photos of her success. But this photo, the one of her family, her father had brought this 3 years ago, when he started cleaning. He had taken it from the house in Decatur and put it here so she would see it so. She would remember. Even if she did not know he was the one reminding her. And every night for 3 years. He had adjusted the angle, so it faced the desk. So every morning when she sat down, her family would be looking back at her. Even when she did not look at them, she sat on the floor. She held the photograph. She did not cry. She had cried enough. Instead, she made a promise. I see you now, Dad. I see you. And I'm not going to stop seeing you. Darnell knocked gently on the glass. You all right in there? She stood. Yeah, I'm all right. She walked to the door. Darnell, yeah, thank you. For what? For being there for him. When I wasn't, he nodded. That's what people do, Tori. We show up for each other. At noon, her shift ended. Her hands were blistered. Her back ached. Her feet were sore. She had scrubbed toilets and emptied trash and mopped floors for 6 hours. And she felt more grounded than any boardroom meeting had ever made her feel. She drove home. Ray was in the kitchen. How was it? Hard. He smiled. Good, good, because now you know. She hugged him. I know. 3 years and 2 months after Ray moved into the penthouse, on a Tuesday morning in January, he woke to a pain he had never felt before. Not the dull ache of his back after a long shift, not the stiffness in his knees from years of kneeling on marble. This was sharp, immediate, like someone had reached inside his chest and squeezed. He was 70 years old. His body had been asking him to slow down for months. He had not listened. Now his body was no longer asking. He sat on the edge of the bed. He tried to breathe through it. The pain radiated down his left arm. He knew what that meant. He had been a nursing assistant for 24 years. He had seen this before, in other people, never in himself. He stood, slowly. He walked to Tori's room. He knocked, baby. She opened the door. One look at his face and she knew. She drove him to Grady Memorial, the same hospital where he had worked. The same hospital where some of his old colleagues still worked. They recognized him in the ER. Ray, hey, what happened? Chest pain. They took him back immediately. Tori sat in the waiting room. She called Darnell. She called Keisha. She did not call the office. She sat, and she waited. And she thought about the last 3 years, about finding the badge, about the kitchen table in Decatur, about the cornbread lessons, about coming home to dinner every night, about having her father back. And she thought, I'm not ready to lose him. Not now. Not when I just got him back. 3 hours later, a doctor came out, young, maybe 35. Scrubs still crisp despite the hour, Miss Brennan, yes. Your father is stable. It was angina. Not a heart attack, Tori exhaled. She had been holding her breath for 3 hours without realizing it. But there's always a but. But his heart is weaker than we'd like. The stress test shows irregularities. We're keeping him overnight. Maybe 2 nights. We need to run more tests. What kind of tests? Echocardiogram, Holter monitor, possibly a coronary angiogram depending on what we find. Is he going to be okay? The doctor paused. Your father is 70 years old. His heart has been through a lot. The years of physical labor, the stress, the grief. Hearts don't forget stress, Miss Brennan. They carry it. Can I see him? Of course. She walked into the room. Ray was in the bed, an IV in his arm, a monitor beeping beside him. He looked smaller in the hospital gown, older. She had not noticed how much older he had gotten in the past 3 years, because she saw him every day. And change is invisible when you are inside it. But here, in this light, with the machines around him, she saw it. He was 70, and his body was catching up. Hey baby, hey dad. She sat in the chair beside the bed. You scared me. I'm sorry. Don't be sorry. Just don't do it again. He smiled. I'll try. They sat in silence for a while. Then he spoke. I need you to promise me something. Anything. When I'm gone. Don't stop. Don't stop what? Don't stop seeing people. Don't stop remembering. Don't go back to the way you were. I won't. Possibly. I promise. He closed his eyes. Good. She held his hand, the hand with the calluses. The calluses were fading now. 3 years since he had held a mop. But they were still there, a reminder of what he had done, of how much he had loved. Dad, I'm glad you cleaned my office. He opened his eyes. You are, yeah. Because if you hadn't, I might never have found you. He smiled. I would have found you eventually, baby. One way or another, how, I don't know. But I would have. Because that's what fathers do. They find their way back to their children. Even when their children are lost. She kissed his forehead. I'm not lost anymore. Good. The next morning they released him. The tests came back clear. Angina. Not a heart attack. Ret. Less stress. More vegetables, the usual. She drove him back to the penthouse. He slept most of the day. That evening she cooked dinner, for the first time in 3 years. She made cornbread and collard greens and fried chicken. She did not make it as well as he did. The cornbread was a little dry. The greens were a little salty. The chicken was a little burnt. But she made it. And when he woke up and came into the kitchen, he saw the plate, covered with a cloth, waiting. You cooked. I did. He sat down. He took a bite. It's good, baby. It's not as good as yours. It's perfect, because you made it. And that's what matters. 4 months after the hospital, Ray asked Tori a question. They were sitting on the couch in the living room. The television was on, but neither of them was watching. Can I go back to Decatur 1 day a week? She looked at him. Of course. It's your house. Not to stay. To visit. Keep the place up. Water the plants. You don't have to ask permission, Dad. I know, but I wanted you to know, so you wouldn't worry. I won't worry. Every Thursday after that, Ray drove to Decatur. He spent the day at the house. He mowed the lawn. He painted the fence. He sat on the porch and drank coffee from the chipped blue mug. And he looked at the oak trees, the same trees that had been there when Tori was born, the same trees that would be there long after both of them were gone. One Thursday in June, Tori went with him. She had taken the day off, something she never did. But she wanted to see the house. She had not been back since the day she found the badge, 4 months ago. They pulled up in front. The oak trees were green, the porch light was on. It had never been turned off. Not once in 70 years. They walked inside together. The hallway, the photographs, the bedroom, everything the same, except not the same, because she was different. She walked into her old room, the single bed, the poster, the textbooks, the running shoes. Dad, yeah, baby. I want you to change this room. He looked at her. What? I want you to make it yours, paint the walls. Get new furniture. Whatever you want. But this isn't a shrine anymore. It's a room, and you deserve to use it however you want. This house is yours, not mine. I left it 18 years ago. You've been taking care of it ever since, so take care of it the way you want to, not the way you think I want you to. He sat down on the bed. You sure? I'm sure. He looked around the room, at the poster, at the textbooks, at the shoes, at the life his daughter used to have, at the life she no longer lived. Okay, she sat beside him. What will you do with it? I don't know yet. Maybe a reading room. Your mama always wanted a reading room, then make it a reading room for her. He smiled for her. They sat in silence. Then Tori spoke. I miss her. I know, baby. Do you? Every day. What do you miss most? The way she saw people. She could look at someone for 5 seconds and know their whole story. She was good at that. You're like her. You know that, am I? Yeah, you stopped for a while. But you're finding your way back. She leaned her head on his shoulder. Because of you. No, baby. Because of you. I just reminded you who you were. You did the rest. On Ray's 72nd birthday, Tori threw him a party. Not at the penthouse, at the house in Decatur, because that was where he wanted it. She invited everyone. Darnell and his wife and his 2 children. Keisha and her partner. 15 people from Buildrite who had worked with Ray. Ethan Marcus, the security guard. 3 board members. 2 nurses from Grady who remembered Ray. And 5 kids from the Raymond Brennan Community Center who called Ray Mr. B. The house was full. The hallway was lined with photographs, the old ones. Tori from 4 to 30. And new ones. Tori and Ray in the penthouse kitchen. Tori and Ray at the press conference. Tori and Ray at the ribbon cutting for the community center. Tori and Ray on the porch in Decatur. Marcus approached Ray in the kitchen. Mr. Brennan. I gotta tell you something. What's that, Marcus? I saw you every morning for 3 years. 6 a.m. You'd come through the lobby. I always thought. That janitor got the same eyes as Ms. Brennan. But I never said nothing. Figured it wasn't my business. Ray smiled. You got good eyes, Marcus. I should have said something. Could have saved you both a lot of... No, you did right. Some things people gotta find out themselves, and we found each other. That's what matters. Later, Darnell stood in the living room and raised his glass. To Ray Brennan, the man who taught us that love doesn't always look like we expect. Sometimes love looks like showing up every night in a uniform nobody notices. Sometimes love looks like cleaning your daughter's office while she sleeps. And sometimes love looks like letting her find you herself. Because real love doesn't demand to be seen. It just keeps showing up. Ray, you're the best man I know. Happy birthday. Everyone raised their glasses to Ray. He nodded. He did not make a speech. He stood. He raised his glass to all of you. For seeing me. For seeing each other. For remembering that every person matters. Not because of what they do, but because they're here. Thank you. They drank. That evening after everyone left, Tori and Ray sat on the porch, on the steps. The same steps he had painted 3 times. The oak trees above them. The porch light on. The Atlanta evening warm. They sat in silence for a while. Then Tori spoke. Can I ask you something? You already asked me that once today. She laughed. I know. But I have another question. Go ahead. Do you regret it? The 3 years he thought about it, she had asked him this before, and his answer was the same. No, even though I didn't see you. You saw me when you were ready. I couldn't force you to see. You had to choose to look, and you did. But it must have hurt. It did, but it also gave me something. What purpose? After your mama died, I felt like I didn't matter anymore. Like my job was done. But those 3 years. Every night I cleaned your office. I was taking care of you, the only way I knew how. And that made me feel like I still mattered, like I was still your father. You never stopped being my father. I know. But I needed to feel it. And now I don't just feel it. I live it because you're here. And I'm here. And we're not missing each other anymore. She leaned her head on his shoulder. I love you, Dad. I love you too, baby. He paused. You hungry? She laughed. Always. Then let's go inside. They stood. They walked through the door. And in the kitchen, on the counter, was a cornbread. Still warm. Made by Tori that morning. Following the recipe her father had taught her. Following the recipe her grandmother had taught him. Following the tradition that would keep going. As long as someone remembered. As long as someone cared enough to fold instead of stir. As long as someone understood that cornbread is not just food, it's love. Made visible. Made warm. Made into something you can hold. 5 years after Ray moved into the penthouse, he was 77. He still lived with Tori. He still went to Decatur every Thursday. He still volunteered at the Raymond Brennan Community Center twice a week. He still cooked dinner most nights, though now Tori cooked too. They took turns. The Raymond Brennan Fund had grown to $18 million. It covered over 12,000 workers across 6 states. 3 states had passed legislation modeled after the program. Workplace injuries among custodial staff had dropped 51% nationally in participating states. Brennan and Cross Capital was no longer just known for its deals. It was known for its culture. Employee satisfaction was the highest in the industry. Retention was unmatched. Profit had grown every year, which proved what Tori had learned, that when you see people, really see them, everything else follows. Darnell Hayes was executive VP now. He oversaw operations for 23 buildings across 3 states. He had started a foundation, scholarships for children of service workers. Over 200 kids had gone to college on those scholarships. Keisha Morgan had retired from BuildRight. She consulted now, teaching companies how to build better systems. She was in demand. Marcus was head of security for the entire Brennan portfolio. He had hired 15 new guards, all of them people who had been overlooked. Ethan had stepped down as COO. He had trained his replacement, a woman who had started as an analyst. Now Ethan spent time with his family and mentored young executives, teaching them what Tori had taught him. That leadership is not about how much you can carry. It's about how much you can let go. On a Sunday evening in October, Tori sat on the couch in the penthouse. Ray was in the kitchen. She could hear him moving around, the familiar sounds. Pots, running water, the refrigerator opening and closing. Her phone buzzed. She looked at it. The reminder was there. Like it had been every Sunday for 10 years, call Dad. She smiled. She did not need the reminder anymore, because he was in the next room. But she kept it. A small monument to the time when she had needed it and ignored it 31 times. She would never ignore it again, even though she did not need it. She kept it because forgetting is easy and remembering takes work, and the work is worth it. Ray walked into the living room. Dinner's ready. She stood. They walked to the table together. He placed a plate in front of her. Cornbread, collard greens, fried chicken, the meal that tasted like home. How was your day? It was good. Yeah, we closed the deal in Charlotte. The one we've been working on for 8 months. He smiled. I'm proud of you, baby. Thanks, Dad. They ate. And she told him about the details, the negotiations, the terms. The moment when everyone finally agreed and he listened, the way he had always listened, like nothing else mattered. After dinner, she helped him clean up. They washed the dishes side by side, her washing, him drying, the way they had done since she was 10. You don't have to help, baby. I can do this. I know. But I want to. When they finished, he went to his room. She went to hers. But before she got into bed, she walked to the window. She looked out at the Atlanta skyline. The same skyline she had looked at for 6 years, without really seeing it. The same skyline her father had cleaned beneath for 1,095 nights. Finds, she thought about the glass door, the one he had stood in front of every night, without knocking. She thought about the badge, the photograph, the smile. She thought about the moment Darnell had placed it on the reception desk, and the moment she had seen it, and the moment everything changed. She thought about people who forget who cleaned their floors, people who forget who cooked their meals, people who forget who stayed when everyone else was too busy to notice. But the ones who were forgotten, they never forgot you. Not for a single night. She turned off the light. She got into bed and fell asleep knowing that when she woke up, her father would be in the next room, making coffee the way he always did. And she would see him, really see him, the way she should have seen him all along. And that was everything. The next morning, Sunday, Tori woke to the smell of coffee. She walked into the kitchen. Ray was at the stove, wearing the apron, the same apron Claire had worn, the same apron he had worn for 15 years. Morning, baby, morning. She poured herself a cup of coffee, sat at the table. He brought her a plate, scrambled eggs, toast, fresh fruit. You didn't have to make breakfast. I wanted to. He sat across from her. They ate in comfortable silence. The kind of silence that only comes from years of mornings together. The kind of silence that says everything without saying anything. After breakfast, after the dishes, after the second cup of coffee, they sat on the couch, the television off, the morning light coming through the windows. What do you want to do today? Tori thought about it. I want to go to Decatur. Yeah. I want to sit on the porch, drink lemonade, listen to the oak trees. With you. He smiled. Okay. They drove to Decatur, pulled up in front of the house. The oak trees were turning. Red and gold and orange, the porch light was on. They sat on the steps. Ray had brought 2 glasses of lemonade. They drank. They listened to the trees, to the wind moving through the branches, to the sound of the neighborhood waking up, to the sound of home. Tori spoke. Dad, thank you. For what, baby? For everything. For cleaning my office. For making cornbread. For teaching me to see people. For not giving up on me. He took her hand. I could never give up on you. You're my daughter. That's not something I can turn off. Even when you're far away. Even when you don't call. You're still mine. And I'm still yours. And that doesn't change. She squeezed his hand. They sat there for an hour. Maybe more. Time moved differently on that porch. Always had. Then they went inside. Ray made lunch. Tori helped. They ate at the kitchen the same table where she had done homework. The same table where they had eaten 1,000 meals. The same table where he had told her clean hands are honest hands. After lunch, they walked through the house room by room, remembering. In Tori's old room, now a reading room, filled with Claire's books, with a comfortable chair by the window, with photographs of all of them. Tori picked up a book, one of her mother's favorites. She opened it. Inside the cover, in her mother's handwriting, for Ray and Tori. Some books are meant to be shared. Some love is meant to be passed down. Remember me when you read this. Remember I loved you both, more than words, more than books, more than anything. Tori showed her father. He had seen it before. But he looked at it like it was new, like every time he saw his wife's handwriting. He fell in love again. They sat in the reading room. Tori in the chair. Ray on the floor, leaning against the wall, the way he used to sit when she was small. When she would read to him, before she learned that reading was something you did alone. She opened the book. She read to him. The way she used to. When she was 8. When the world was smaller. When was the biggest thing in it. She read for an hour, maybe more. And when she finished, she looked over. He had fallen asleep. His head tilted to the side. His breathing slow and steady, peaceful. She did not wake him. She sat there, watching him sleep, the way he had watched her sleep 1,000 times, when she was sick, when she was scared, when she needed someone to watch over her. Now she was watching over him. And she thought, this is what love looks like, this exact moment, this room, this man, this life. When he woke, the sun was lower, the room golden. She was still sitting in the chair, still watching. How long was I out? A while. You should have woken me. I didn't want to. He stretched, stood. We should head back. They drove home as the sun set. Back to the penthouse. Back to their life. The life they had built together. After 3 years of separation, after 7 months of silence, after 1,095 nights of invisible love, they had found their way back to each other, to themselves, to the truth that had always been there. That love does not require being seen. It only requires showing up. And they had both shown up, in their own ways, at their own times. And now they were home, together, where they belonged.